Welcome to another episode of Smart AI Unlocked, your go-to guide for harnessing the power of AI to elevate your business. Let's dive into today's discussion.
All right, let's dive into this EU AI Act. It's kind of a big deal, right? Trying to set the rules for AI globally. We're using some excerpts from a summary on the Future of Life Institute's website as our guide. And the thing that I find really fascinating is this risk-based approach. What do you think that means for how AI will actually be used?
It's the question, isn't it? The risk-based system means the rules change depending on how dangerous an AI system could be. So some will be super restricted, others will have more freedom, trying to keep things moving forward, but keeping people safe. It's a tough balance.
Okay, so let's break it down. The Act bans certain AI systems completely. They call it unacceptable risk.
Right. These are systems that are just too dangerous, or ethically just, no, they shouldn't exist. For example, imagine an AI that judges people based on how they behave, gives them a score, like a credit score, but for your whole life. Then that score determines what you can and can't do.
Like a Black Mirror episode or something.
Yeah, exactly. Total dystopia. The EU is drawing a line in the sand. Nope, not going to happen. They're also banning AI that manipulates people, like subliminal stuff or taking advantage of weaknesses in how people think.
No mind control, got it. But AI is already everywhere. What about when it's not banned outright, but could still cause harm?
That's high risk. Think of AI in healthcare, policing, transportation, places where mistakes have big consequences.
Yeah, high stakes for sure. So what do? Slap a warning label on it?
No, it's way more serious than that.
Yeah.
If you're building a high-risk AI, you have to follow strict rules, like having really good risk management. The data has to be top-notch, high quality, no bias, and humans have to be involved in the big decisions.
So manage the risk, not get rid of it completely. Can you give us an example how this would actually play out?
Sure, let's say there's an AI that helps doctors make diagnoses, analyzes data, compares it to tons of other cases, suggests possibilities. But the AI Act says a doctor still has to make the final call. They look at what the AI suggests and use their own judgment.
So the AI is a tool, not a replacement. But with AI, it's not always easy to know how it'll be used, especially as it gets more and more advanced. The Act tries to deal with this by talking about general-purpose AI, right?
Yes, and this is where things get really interesting. General-purpose AI, or GPAI, are systems that can do a lot of different things. They're flexible, can be plugged into all sorts of applications, like those large language models, ChatGPT, for example. They can write poems, answer questions, summarize stuff, even write code.
Like a Swiss Army knife for AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's super powerful, but it's also a challenge to regulate. Because it's so flexible, we can't always predict how it will be used.
That's got to be a headache for regulators.
Yeah.
Trying to make rules for something that could be used in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
It is, and that's why they've got this two-pronged approach. First, some rules apply to all GPAI models, no matter what they're used for. Things like good documentation, respecting copyright, being open about the data they were trained on.
Transparency is a big thing with this act, huh?
Yeah, it's about building trust, being able to check for bias and potential problems. The second part is focused on models that pose what they call systemic risk.
Systemic risk. Breaks that down for me.
So these are AI systems that could have a really big impact on society, like changing entire industries, messing with politics, even undermining basic rights. It's about recognizing that some AI systems are just bigger, more powerful, and we need to be extra careful with those.
Not all GPAI is created equal. Some need a closer look because of the impact they could have.
Exactly. And one way they're trying to do this is by looking at how much computing power it took to train them.
Okay, now we're getting into the technical stuff.
Yeah.
How does computing power relate to risk?
It's not about the computing power itself, but what it means. To train these massive AI models, you need mountains of data and processing power. It's measured in something called FLOPs, floating point operations. The EU has set a FLOPs limit. If a GPAI model goes over that limit during training, it's a red flag. It means it could be systemically risky.
So if it took a ton of power to train it, it could probably do some serious stuff. And we better make sure that stuff aligns with our values.
You got it. It's like saying, hey, let's pay extra attention to the really big, complex AIs, because they could have a huge impact, good or bad. But it's not just about the FLOPs.
So there's more to it than just raw computing power. It's also about what the AI is designed to do and how it might be used.
Exactly. The EU is trying to be both practical and, well, forward-thinking. They know AI is changing fast, and they're trying to build a system that can keep up.
Makes sense. But rules are only good if you can enforce them. Who's making sure everyone's playing by the rules in the AI Wild West?
Great question. And that's where another key part of the AI Act comes in, the AI office.
An AI office, like a whole government department just for AI.
Exactly. Think of them as the AI guardians. Their job is to make sure everyone follows the rules, especially for those high-risk and systemic GPAI models.
The AI reference.
Yeah, a good way to put it. But it's not just about policing. They're also trying to get everyone talking, bringing industry leaders, researchers, everyone to the table.
So keeping things balanced between regulation and letting innovation happen.
Exactly. The AI Act isn't about stopping innovation. It's about guiding it in the right direction. AI is powerful. It can be used for good or for bad. We have to be careful and think about how we develop it and use it.
This is a lot to think about. We've only just started scratching the surface of this AI Act. It's pretty clear this thing could change the future of AI, not just in Europe, but everywhere.
It could. And after a quick break, we'll dig deeper into how this act will actually work and what it means for different industries.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the different risk categories. It's amazing how the EU is trying to get ahead of the game, seeing how AI could impact everything from healthcare to law enforcement. Speaking of which, let's talk more about those high-risk AI systems. The summary we're using from the Future of Life Institute, it mentions this list, Annex 3. All the high-risk areas. Anything in particular that caught your eye?
Oh, absolutely. Annex 3 it's huge. It really shows you just how much AI is being used everywhere. One that jumped out at me was law enforcement. They talk about AI systems that predict crime or assess whether someone's likely to reoffend.
Whoa, that's some Minority Report stuff right there. Algorithms predicting who's going to commit a crime. Makes you wonder about bias,
Yeah.
and the ethics of using AI in such a sensitive area.
Yeah. Absolutely. There are so many questions there. That's why the Act is so strict about safeguards, especially for these high-risk systems. The data has to be good, unbiased, and humans have to be involved in the decision-making. We don't want people being unfairly targeted because of some algorithm.
It's a slippery slope for sure. What other high-risk applications are people talking about?
Healthcare is a big one, specifically AI for diagnosis. The potential is amazing. Imagine AI that can analyze medical images and find diseases earlier and more accurately than a human doctor. But the risks are huge, too.
Yeah, if an AI misdiagnoses someone, the consequences could be devastating.
Right. That's why the Act requires tons of testing. Any AI used in healthcare has to be really thoroughly vetted. And again, human oversight is key. Doctors have to be the ones making the final decisions about diagnosis and treatment.
Trust, but verify. Using AI as a tool to help doctors, not replace them.
Exactly.
What about other sectors? What else stood out to you from Annex 3?
Well, the list is pretty long. They cover everything from critical infrastructure, like power grids, to things like education and employment.
AI grading students? Or deciding who gets hired?
Yeah, things like that. They talk about AI systems that evaluate job applications or assess student performance.
I can see how that could be a problem. You wouldn't want an AI making biased hiring decisions or unfairly grading students.
Right, exactly. And that's why those general principles we talked about are so important. Transparency, accountability, human oversight.
It seems like the EU is really trying to be proactive, creating this framework to encourage responsible AI.
Yeah, they're not shying away from the tough questions.
It makes you wonder why the EU is leading the charge on this. Is it just about protecting their citizens? Or is there more to it?
I think it's a few things. The EU has always been big on data privacy. Remember the GDPR?
Oh yeah, the General Data Protection Regulation.
Hmm.
That was a game changer. Companies all over the world had to change how they handled data.
Exactly. So it's not surprising they're doing the same thing with AI. They see data protection as a fundamental right, and they're making sure AI systems respect that.
It's like they're saying AI is powerful, but it still has to play by our rules.
Exactly. But I think there's more to it than just data protection. They also see AI as a way to boost their economy and drive innovation. They want to create a space where AI can flourish, but not at the expense of ethics.
So finding that balance between innovation and responsibility.
Right.
Do you think this act will have an impact outside of Europe?
It's hard to say for sure, but the EU is a major player on the global stage. Look at the GDPR. It had a huge impact worldwide. Lots of countries adopted similar laws. It's possible the AI Act could have the same effect.
So the EU could become a trendsetter, shaping how the whole world thinks about AI regulation.
It's definitely possible. And even if other countries don't copy their laws exactly, the AI Act is starting a conversation. about the ethics of AI and its impact on society. It's forcing everyone to think about these issues and what kind of future we want to build with AI.
We're all in this together.
Absolutely.
The choices we make now will have big consequences.
The AI Act isn't just about rules, it's about shaping the future of AI in a way that reflects our values and hopes.
Okay, we've talked a lot about what the AI Act is, the categories, the risks, all that. But let's talk about how it will actually work. How do you implement and enforce something this big and complicated?
It's a big challenge. They're taking a phased approach. Different parts of the act will come into effect at different times. The ban systems, those are immediate. But the other categories, like high-risk systems, those will take longer.
So giving everyone time to adjust.
Right.
But who's actually going to make sure everyone follows the rules?
The AI office will play a key role.
Right, the AI referees. Will they be working alone?
Collaboration is a big part of this. The Act talks a lot about stakeholder engagement, getting input from industry, researchers, everyone.
So it's not just top-down, it's more of a collaborative effort.
Exactly.
What about those codes of practice we talked about? Will those be important?
Very important. They're like a roadmap for companies, showing them how to comply with the Act. They'll give practical guidance for different sectors and applications.
Like a user manual for responsible AI?
Yeah, kind of, making the Act more concrete and actionable.
Okay, let's get practical. Imagine you're a company developing a high-risk AI system, say for healthcare. What would you have to do to comply with the Act?
Well, the first step is a thorough risk assessment. You have to look at all the potential risks, how the AI could go wrong, what harm it could cause, who could be affected.
So it's more than just checking a box.
Absolutely. You have to really dig deep. And once you've identified the risks, you need a risk management plan. This outlines how you're going to mitigate those risks, make sure the AI is used safely and responsibly.
Things like clear protocols for human oversight, testing for bias in the data, having ways to deal with errors or malfunctions.
Exactly. You also need to make sure your AI meets all the technical requirements. Data quality, accuracy, robustness, cybersecurity. It's a complex process.
Sounds like a lot of work, especially for smaller companies. Will there be any help for them?
The EU knows this is a challenge. They're committed to providing guidance and support, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. They're developing resources, hosting workshops, facilitating collaborations.
So they're not just setting the rules, they're also helping people follow them.
Exactly. We're all figuring this out together.
It's good to know the EU is taking a collaborative approach.
It's about working together to harness the power of AI for good, while protecting against the potential harms. It's about shaping the future of technology in a way that aligns with our values and aspirations.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but there's still so much more to explore. When we come back, we'll talk about the potential global impact of the AI Act and what it all means for the average person. Okay, we're back. We've really gone deep on this EU AI Act, all the details, the risks, how they're going to make it work. But let's step back for a second. What does all this mean for, the average person? How will this actually affect our lives?
That's the big question, right? This act is complicated, but its impact will be huge. Think about it. AI is already everywhere. It's in the algorithms that choose what you see on social media. It's in the voice assistants we use every day.
It's true. It's almost like we take AI for granted sometimes. So how will this act change things?
Well, one big thing is safety. By setting standards for those high-risk AI systems, the ones in healthcare, transportation, all those important areas, the Act is trying to make sure AI is used safely, and that if something goes wrong, the risks are minimized.
So it's like a safety net for the age of AI.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But it's not just about preventing bad things. It's also about fairness, making sure AI doesn't discriminate. So they're looking at AI used for things like hiring, loans, even law enforcement. They want to make sure AI doesn't just make existing inequalities worse.
That's important. AI could either help with bias or make it much worse. But I'm sure some people are worried about too much regulation.
Oh, definitely. Some people think these strict rules will hurt European companies, make it harder for them to compete with companies in places with less regulation.
Yeah, that tension between rules and innovation.
Exactly. It's a tough balance to find. We'll have to see how it plays out. Another challenge is enforcement. This is a global issue, To really regulate AI, everyone needs to be on board.
So even if the EU has great rules, it won't matter if other countries don't do the same.
Pretty much. But the EU is working with other countries, trying to get everyone talking and working together on AI governance.
Setting a global standard.
That's the goal. And even if they don't get everyone to agree on the exact same rules, this act has started a global conversation about how to use AI ethically and responsibly.
It's definitely a big step, trying to deal with the ethical issues of AI before they become huge problems.
Right. It's about being proactive, not just reacting after something bad happens.
It shows that we have a choice. We can decide how AI develops and how it impacts our lives.
Exactly. The future of AI isn't set in stone. It depends on the choices we make. The AI Act is a reminder that we have a voice. We can shape how this technology is used.
It's a call to action. We need to stay informed, ask questions, and be part of the conversation.
Absolutely. The future of AI is something we create together.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the EU's AI Act. We hope you learned something and that you'll keep thinking about the future of AI.
Keep learning, keep asking questions, and be part of shaping the future.
Until next time, stay curious.